Hi, I am Sarah Chaisson. I am employee number 1 for Lamacchia Realty. I am now the Senior Vice President of Finance for all the Lamacchia companies. I started back in 2005, part-time for Anthony in real estate. We actually started in a spare bedroom in Anthony's house. Pretty comical. Most people be like, that's so bizarre, but Anthony and I have known each other since we were little, so it wasn't weird at all. We had it set up with a bed on one side, a table on the other side, because it literally was his spare bedroom, so it was pretty funny. It was so laid back. I would go to work every day in like a sweatshirt and answering the phones, and I just remember at the beginning of time, we were like, is this even gonna work? It was so crazy. I went to school to be a teacher. I taught for 2 years, and then I started working for Anthony on a part-time basis. He asked me to help with some bookkeeping stuff because I knew how to use QuickBooks from a previous job. So I did do that for a little bit starting in the spring of 2005. And then he's like, I'm just gonna hire you full-time. And I'm like, well, I don't know. I'm halfway through my master's. I love teaching and whatnot. And then in August of 2005, I decided to take a leap and I quit my job. I was away on vacation. I called and resigned, and I started working here. And like at the end of August of 2005, and have been here ever since. I started out as, like I said, a receptionist. I worked my way up to office manager, director of operations, vice president of finance, and now I do all the finance for all of the Lamacchia companies. So Anthony and I have known each other since we were 9. We actually grew up around the corner from each other. His grandparents lived 2 streets over, and we went to the same elementary school, so I've known him for a really long time. We've been best friends since, probably more middle schoolish. And then his wife, Nicole, who works here as well, that's on my team. She's our finance coordinator. Her and I have also been best friends since middle school. We used to dance together, and we all hung out in high school, college, and after. So it's been fun. So at a young age, Anthony always was a workaholic. He was probably one of the hardest working people that I ever knew. And at a young age, he always worked with his dad in the landscape company. So it was funny when we would be in high school, he'd have a pager, people would page him throughout the day. He would go to the payphone, put the money in, call the guys back, sometimes would go meet up with them, working Saturdays. So I always knew that no matter what he did, he was going to be successful. He had that drive from such a young age. Literally, we'd be all like, okay, we're in college, we're gonna go out tonight. He's like, oh, I'm going to bed, I gotta work in the morning, saving up for his first house, stuff like that. So he was always just like engraved in his head, work, 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 where we were all like, all right, we're going partying and like going to hang out with friends. And he did hang out with us, but he was more of the one that was like more grown up in that respect, that he was just like brought up by his dad being a business owner and was able to see like firsthand how a business operated. So it was crazy because like none of us had a family business, so we didn't know. And I remember when we first started, his grandfather was heavily involved with us. He did all of our payroll, and he taught me how to do the payroll, and he kind of like taught us how to like, do some of the books, but he's the one that taught Anthony because he was an accountant. So it was just full circle on how it was like, a family business. But Anthony always knew at a young age, and he would say it, like, I'm gonna have my own business one day. I personally didn't think it was gonna be real estate. I thought he was gonna, do the landscape because that's the way he grew up. But when he got his license and bought his first home, that's when he really fell in love with it. So it was just interesting kind of to, pivot and go that route. But he was always just, cared more about working than anything else. So to me, I really had nothing to lose at that point. I was 24 years old when I started working here. So I said, I can always go back to teaching if this doesn't work out. But I knew that the drive that he did have, that he would make this business super successful, and he has and will continue to do so. So I had no doubt in him, and I was excited to be part of the journey, and I'm thankful every day for the opportunity. When we first started, we were with Remax. We worked at Anthony's house for a little while, and then we got an office in Watertown. That's when we really got our first employee. We had another admin that came over and helped. It was actually a girl that we went to high school with, and she helped us for a little while. And then the market kind of slowed down a little bit, and then we ended up going over to Realty Executives. And over there, we had an admin as well, but that's really when we had other staff join. So Mike McGrory, who is VP of Sales, and Angela Rastellini, who is our broker of record and heavily involved with ops. Those were the two first big hires that we had, and they were there with us kind of since the beginning. They both are probably going to be here almost close to 15, 16 years at this point. So we've all worked together for a really long time. And then after Realty Executives, we actually went out on our own and became Lamacchia Realty. And that's when we moved over to our headquarters in Waltham. And that's really when we began to grow a lot. We hired a lot of people, Dave, Kim, Jackie, Adam, all those people that are on the exec team and senior leadership have been with us for a really, really long time. But it's funny because I look back and I've pretty much hired every single one of them and a lot of the staff that is still here today. So it's funny to me to see okay, this is crazy. We met you so long ago, and I remember literally sitting there with my sheet of paper asking them the standard questions and whatnot. But it's been great, and built a lot of friendships, and it's more like a family to me. We have a love-hate relationship sometimes. We're not afraid to tell each other the truth, and sometimes we'll disagree, but honestly that's what makes you grow and do better. But I know that we've all worked very well together, and we're very lucky. And then Lindsay came along a little bit later. I will never forget her email that she sent over, marketing guru, to Anthony and I, and we met with her. But that was cool too. But a lot of us have been working together for a really long time, and it's a great group, and I love them.
Selling your home?
So we first started doing TV, I think it was in 2006. Anthony flew out to Arizona to meet with this great guy, this agent, Jeff Willems, and his wife, Marcy. They're awesome people. And I remember he called me and he's like, all right, we're gonna do this. And it was soldin70days.com. And I just remember we'd be like, we'll step in and buy it ourselves. So they literally were like, shoot, over to the side. And it was the funniest thing. And then we look back and we're like, oh my Lord, it was so cheesy. But it worked. And eventually we ended up switching that to soldin32days.com. We had a variation of soldbythanksgiving.com. So it was just all these different marketing ploys that we did. And I remember the first lead that we actually got from the TV ad. We were so excited, and it ended up being a lead in Canada. So it was kind of a bust, but I just remember I'm like, Anthony, we got a lead. And then it was someone in Canada. We're like, bummer. Finding actors for them at some point, because before it was just Anthony and John in them, and then Anthony, and then I remember doing filming in front of my house with a for sale sign, my parents' house, and people driving down the street saying, oh my God, you're selling? Or no, we're just filming. We used my cousin's house at one point. So it was cool. And I've been on a lot of the sets to see them film, and that was a cool opportunity, and helping with, coming up with some ideas. I did some marketing at one point. I helped website, and kind of had my hand in every little aspect of the company at one point. We got involved in short sales, and we did so many of those, and that's when we brought on a lot of the people that we have here today. And we actually just were able to capitalize on what we saw in the market and help all these people that were in need, and we became the experts on that. So anytime something happened in the market, we would always try to find a way to pivot and make ourselves successful and do better. So we used to do pizza boxes as our home seller kits, and that also came from our friend Jeff in Arizona. So I would go to Restaurant Depot and buy a huge stack of pizza boxes, and everyone was looking at me like I'm crazy. And we had stickers, and we put them on, and then we would put our DVD inside, which I have somewhere upstairs still. And then we would get these eyeballs, like bouncy ball eyeballs, and put those in. So then we'd be like, please watch before our appointment. And I would walk across the street. At that time, we were at Remax in Watertown, and there was a post office right across the street. I'd walk across every day with my pizza boxes, so they all looked at me like I was crazy. But it was so cool, and it got a lot of attention, and it made us stand out from a lot of our competition. So that was cool too. I feel like we lucked out, like that he was just so creative in a way, I guess. He wasn't afraid to go to like conferences and stuff. For example, it's like when he first learned about like the pizza boxes and the TV advertising, he wasn't afraid to take a chance. So like in that respect, didn't know anyone, flying across the world, leaving his young kids to go to try to figure out how we're gonna grow this business, I think was huge. And I would say that like we were super lucky to, go from our agent count from here to here. We ended up building Crush It in Real Estate, the Facebook page. And I would say that was like actually like a really big game changer for us. And not so much luck, it's just, him trying new things. If something doesn't work right, okay, we're gonna pivot and try something new. But it's not like a failure because, you don't know unless you try. So in that respect, we're lucky that he was able to, have these opportunities to better the company. August of 2011. I didn't know, obviously I was having twins, so I was like planning on just being out for like a couple weeks. And I remember when I went for my ultrasound, I called Anthony from the car, like in shock, and I'm like, oh my God. And he's like, what's wrong? And I'm like, I'm having twins. He's like, okay, great, that's awesome. I'm like, but I'm gonna have to be out a little longer. And he's like, oh my God, who cares? So I was out for like 3 months, and then I came back like gradually. And that was the time where we kind of were revamping a lot of things. And that's when we put a lot of focus in on our CRM and like developing the new CRM that we had. We didn't do that till a little bit later, but we met with companies and all that. And that's when we came up with Lamacchia Hub, which is our CRM. So I did a lot of work on that after. But I was in good hands because Angela was here at that point, and she was the director of operations. So she handled a lot. So President's Club is our trip that our agents go on when they hit a certain criteria. It actually came from Jocelyn, who's one of our agents, and she kind of was pushing us to do something like that to recognize our top agents because her husband's company did it. And then, Sean, who's one of our good friends over at Guaranteed Rate, they did a President's Club trip every year as well. So it was kind of something that we always like had in the back of our mind, but it was just something that we wanted to do to reward our agents and, take them away and be able to spend some time with the top group. So we did come up with the criteria and everything, and we did that the first year with a very small group, but it was awesome. We spent 4 days in Aruba with them and got to hang out with them one-on-one and meet their spouses and whatnot. So it's just a nice little thing. And now this year I think we're gonna have close to 100 people there. So it started off maybe like 15, 20, and now we have over 100. So it's really special, and I love being able to go because you really get to see people outside of work. You are here and you get to talk to them, but it's not really like, it's always like, oh, hi, how are you? It's not here. You actually get to like know them as a person and see them outside of work, and it's fun. We have a lot of fun. So there was definitely like times where we're like, oh my God, are we gonna be able to like afford everything anymore? Like when the sales were slow and everything slowed down, especially like during COVID, because we didn't know what was gonna happen. Like I just remember him and I would be like on Teams like every night looking at numbers, staring at numbers, being like, okay, like what's gonna happen? Are we gonna have to like lay people off? Are we gonna have to like do something drastic here? Because the world was like ending at that point. You just didn't know, and it was so scary. And we're just like, okay, like just looking, staring at the numbers, it's like, are we gonna do it? Are we gonna make it? Most recently is when we had the massive acquisitions in the last year or so, when we opened like, I think it was 7 offices in 1 year. So that was insane. It was super crazy and busy, but it was also so rewarding and special. I mean, to be able to bring in all these new companies and agents and these great people, it's been awesome, but it was a whirlwind of a year, I would say. But it was good, it's great, and we're happy to grow. I mean, that's the whole point of being in business, you want to be the best you can be. So it's super exciting to see like where we can go and who we can work with. And we have a lot of wonderful additions that we did add in, and we just had one recently a month or two ago in Providence. So that was nice to bring those agents on, but it's ever changing and I love it. I actually was excited for that. Didn't think it was a crazy idea. I knew eventually that's where we wanted to be anyway. And then we had an awesome agent, Amy, that was with us up here, and then she moved to Florida. So I was like, okay, let's give it a shot. And it did work out. I think, you know, it's great that we have an office down there, and I want to continue to open more. Culture obviously is super important, and I just think the way that he gives off the like energy, it's like that it's more of like a family in a way. That's how he was raised, like family was super important to him. So I think just like getting to know everyone and having a culture and people feeling comfortable and stuff like that, it was just like kind of how it all worked. And the vibe that he gives off is it's happy, and you wanna be happy and hang out and, you know, get to know everyone and stuff like that. We all work so well together, I think, and we all have a love for the company. We all have the same goal. We want to succeed, and we know that the company is able to go to the sky. So he's super humble. He doesn't like to take credit for a lot of things. In a way, he's like not embarrassed, but like if like you try to be like, Anthony, like it's your 20th year, like here's something, and speak like great words about him, he's kind of just like he doesn't like the recognition, which is crazy to me because he deserves it more than like anyone. So he's super humble. One specific memory is we had an agent, and she unfortunately passed away from breast cancer, but she was like one of our most favorite people. And I remember she was sick around the holidays, and Anthony went out and had the guys buy this ginormous Christmas tree, and they brought it over and helped her decorate it and stuff like that. And that's just like the type of person he is. He cares so much about his agents and people that works for him. It's not just like you're an employee or you're an agent. He really takes the time to get to know everyone and cares. Like if someone had like a family tragedy or someone's kid is sick, he'll bring them dinner to the hospital, or he'll, you know, I know someone at Boston Children that can try to get you in sooner. He's just a very caring people person. We've had agents, you know, I can think of one of our agents who broke her legs, and he's over there and telling her, don't worry about anything, we got you covered, anything you need. We have agents that will cover your showings and meet with your clients, and we just need you to get better. So it's just, he's very caring and giving in that respect. He has so much energy and positive energy that you just like thrive off of him in a way. Like you just want to be the best version of yourself you can be and succeed. And I wish I had that much energy sometimes. Like it's crazy, but the ideas and all that stuff is insane. I feel like sky's the limit, honestly. I feel like we have an opportunity to continue to grow, obviously like into different states, eventually probably all over the US. I honestly took a leap of faith when I started here. I was nervous, but I had a, you know, suspicion that it was gonna all work out, but I didn't at this point think it would be where we are today. I honestly thought the growth would be a little bit slower, but to me, like I had nothing to lose at that point. I wanted to help him grow the company to where it needed to be and be involved in all the aspects, which I'm very thankful for, and I'm happy that I was able to do all that. I think Anthony is a special person, and he literally has the drive of a million people when he's just one person. So to continue to just be able to grow and bring in, you know, new companies and agents, I think we're just gonna continue to be on a mission.